Vladyslav has come through the mixed zone and he's been talking to many people. What has been the reaction of the reporters and those as part of Vladislav's team to the news this morning and events thereafter?
Morning, Hazel. Yes, there's an interesting feeling here. Obviously, competition continues, and obviously, as media and as competitors, coaches, etc., that is the focus. But there is this murmuring, and there is this notion that actually the eyes of the world are on this sport. And I suppose, with much of the debate and the conversation that goes on between all the individuals here, at the very least, it's a reminder of the immense power of sport and its ability to, cut through and create, in many ways, I suppose, the type of impact that he may well have been trying to make.
How many interviews has he given over the last few minutes, and was he consistent in his messaging in all of them?
Yes, he's been down the full line here, throughout sort of the dozen positions that are in here on TV as well as radio as well. Fairly consistent, I would say. I think it's clear that he was very emotional about it, and that was interesting. In many ways, you'd almost expect him to have a very prepared message because this has been an ongoing conversation for some time, and he clearly has a point to make. But actually, you could feel his disappointment, and you saw in the interview that I made there. I asked him both as a competitor how he felt, and he is upset that 4 years worth of preparation, that he's unable to, as Lizzie was saying, fulfill that sort of childhood dream of being able to compete at the Olympics. But you ask him as a human being, as an individual who has come here to make this point, and as a Ukrainian, clearly, that actually, when you really think about it, the IOC has made a decision which ultimately has forced him to make a decision. If he had the choice, and he does, he could choose not to wear the helmet. He has been given ample opportunity, if needs be, to wear it during training, and indeed to show it through the mix zone. But he has ultimately made the decision to take a stand on this point, and it's clear that his emotions are still very, very raw and very current at this point.
I think part of the shock that his fellow athletes will be feeling, and indeed Lizzie has already alluded to this, is the fact that the IOC has decided, yes, okay, on this instance he's going to be prevented from competing, but to remove his accreditation, which ultimately, JJ, means that he will have to leave the Olympic Games. This seems to be something of a sore point, I would say, with the expression and indeed the reaction that we've been receiving on this.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. He was here this morning, and he was, beginning to prepare to race at that stage. And, the sort of notion when we arrived here is that this very much could go ahead. At the point when we found that his accreditation had been removed, which is, it's the physical pass that has to be carried in order to allow him to access the games venue, but even this mixed zone space. In some ways, we were surprised at that stage that he was even allowed to come and have an opportunity to speak to us. I think it's the point that the IOC has tried to make clear throughout this is that this is not about the political statement, or in fact they're not even treating it as a political statement. It's not about the messaging, it is about where he wants to express that messaging. And it comes from an athlete commission that has been going on for several years now, and ultimately that was a conversation between the IOC and the rule makers and the athletes themselves, and it's the athletes that expressed the want to have safe spaces, and it was decided that those safe spaces would be the podium, they would be in the athlete village, and of course they would be the field of play, and in some ways that would be seen as sacrosanct. And so they have given him opportunity, and continued at this point to give him opportunity to show his helmet and make his point in places like the mixed zone, and indeed in the wider bubble of the Olympics. But now, without the accreditation, it would argue that actually he won't even be able to make messaging in any of those places.
JJ, thank you very much for now, and I'm sure we'll continue to liaise with you about any further developments in this story. But Vladyslav Heraskevych,